Think about the wealthiest person you know personally. Not a celebrity, not a guru with a podcast. Someone you've actually sat across from at a table. Someone who doesn't post about their net worth. Someone who drives a car that's maybe 7 years old and never brings it up. Now picture where they live. Chances are they've been there a while, not because they couldn't afford to move, because they understood something that most people spend 30 years figuring out the hard way. The house you stay in builds something the house you upgrade to never can. And the gap between those two lives, the one that kept moving and the one that quietly stayed put, doesn't show up anywhere people can see it. It shows up in the math. And when you finally see the actual number, you can't look at a housing decision the same way again. That number is what this video is about. Here's how this plays out. Two people, same city, same starting income, same mortgage, same bank. One decision separates them, and it gets made on an ordinary Tuesday that neither of them will remember. 20 years later, one of them is weeks away from financial independence. The other is still making payments until 2050, not because one was smarter, not because one got lucky, because of what quietly happens when you stop moving and let the math run. The part that changes everything comes toward the end, and it's a number most people never get to because they stop watching before they get there. Don't. 2005. Two neighbors, Marcus and David, both in their late 20s. Both buying their first home on the same street in the same mid-size American city. Same down payment. Same 30-year fixed mortgage at 5.9%. Same $1,140 a month. Same foam keychain from the realtor. Week 1 is identical for both of them. But on the third Tuesday of the first month, Marcus calls his bank. He sets up an automatic transfer, $150 extra every single month going straight to his mortgage principal. Not because he ran a spreadsheet. Not because a financial advisor told him to. Just because there was a small amount left over after the bills cleared and it felt right to put it somewhere it could actually do something. He doesn't tell anyone. There's nothing to tell. The transfer goes through. He closes the laptop. David, meanwhile, is standing in his new kitchen. The previous owner left a linoleum floor that catches the afternoon light in a way that bothers him. The cabinets are dated. The layout is almost open concept, but not quite. This is his home now. But it doesn't feel like it yet. By month 3, David has opened a home equity line of credit for $26,000. The kitchen is getting gutted. New floors, new cabinets, an island that finally opens the whole space up. He stands in the middle of the renovation and for the first time the house actually feels like his. That feeling is completely real. And it cost $26,000 plus interest. Both of those things are true at the same time. This is where the paths split. Not dramatically, not with any warning. Just quietly, on an ordinary Tuesday and a kitchen renovation, two financial lives begin moving in completely different directions. The part of this that most people never see isn't the mortgage itself. It's what happens the first time someone tells David it's time to move up. 2010. 5 years in. A realtor his coworker recommended calls in the spring. Someone who speaks with the calm confidence of a person who does this every single day. The market has recovered. The house has appreciated. David got a raise. His wife is expecting their second child. There's a neighborhood 2 zip codes over with better schools, bigger lots, and yards with actual trees. The realtor says, with the easy certainty of someone who has said it 1,000 times, this is a good window. David thinks about the kitchen, the way it finally feels like home. Then he thinks about the new house, the extra bedroom, the oak tree in the front yard, his kids growing up there. He says yes. Here is what nobody tells you at the closing table. Every time you sell a home and buy another one, somewhere between 8 and 10% of the property's value simply disappears. Not into the new house, not into equity. Gone. Agent commissions run 5 to 6%. Closing costs, title insurance, transfer taxes, recording fees, escrow, add another 2 to 3% on top of that. On a home worth $215,000 in 2010, that friction tax lands somewhere between $17,000 and $21,000. That money is gone before David spends a single night in the new house. Now think about what 5 years of mortgage payments actually built. 60 payments at $1,140 a month. Just over $68,000 sent to the bank. But in the early years of a 30-year mortgage at 5.9%, the vast majority of each payment goes to interest, not to principal David actually owns. The equity he built in 5 years? roughly $14,000 to $16,000. Let that land for a second. The transaction cost of moving wiped out nearly everything he accumulated over half a decade. He walked out of one house and into another and ended up financially almost exactly where he started 5 years earlier. David didn't make a foolish decision. He made a normal one. That is precisely what makes it so expensive. In the spring of 2010, nothing happened at Marcus's house. No realtor call, no closing table, no wire transfer to a title company. The $150 extra went out automatically on the 3rd of the month, the same way it has every month for 5 years. Nobody noticed. Nobody congratulated him. He didn't think much about it. But here's what that Tuesday transfer quietly built. His principal balance is lower than it should be for a loan this age. The interest portion of each payment has been shrinking slowly because the balance it's calculated on keeps shrinking month by month. He is ahead of the amortization schedule in a way that doesn't show up anywhere visible. Not on his credit score, not in his bank account, not in a number anyone would ever ask about at dinner. It lives in the math, compounding in the background, doing its work without acknowledgement. This is what building quiet wealth actually looks like in a real life. Not a story you tell at dinner, not a milestone you post about, not a moment you can point to and say, that's when everything changed. It's just a number getting smaller every month while life continues completely normally around it. 2 houses, same street, same starting point. One is 5 years into a financial reset. The other is 5 years deeper into something that is just beginning to build real momentum. And while David's transaction costs were erasing 5 years of progress, Marcus's $150, consistent, boring, invisible, was doing the thing that money does when you simply leave it alone, compounding. In the fall of 2020, the number everyone is talking about is 2.9%. The Federal Reserve has been holding rates near zero since the pandemic hit in March. David's phone keeps buzzing with headlines. His brother-in-law refinanced in August and won't stop talking about it. His financial advisor leaves a voicemail. This window won't stay open forever. David has been in his second house for 10 years. The kids are in middle school. The neighborhood is fine. And there's a new development going up 12 minutes away. Bigger lots. Newer construction. The open floor plan he's wanted since he gutted the first kitchen back in 2007. At 2.9%, the monthly payment on a $340,000 house is actually lower than what David is paying now. He runs the numbers on a mortgage calculator at 11 p.m. on a Wednesday. It works. He calls his advisor the next morning. Here is what the mortgage calculator didn't show him that Wednesday night. Every 30-year mortgage is structured the same way. It front-loads the interest. In year one of any new 30-year loan, roughly 75 to 80% of each monthly payment goes to interest, not to principal. David knew this once. He felt it in the first house, watching the balance barely move in those early years. But 10 years into his second mortgage, that ratio had finally started shifting. The new mortgage resets that ratio back to year one. David is 44 years old. He has just taken out a 30-year mortgage. If he makes every payment on schedule and never moves again, this loan will be paid off in 2050. He will be 74 years old. The rate went down. The debt went up. And the thing that felt like financial optimization, pulling equity, lowering the monthly payment, locking in a historic rate, was the most efficient way available to stay in debt for the rest of his working life. In 2020, Marcus runs a different calculation entirely. His remaining balance is now under $38,000. 15 years of $150 extra every month has done what compound math does when you leave it alone. It has pulled his payoff date forward by years. He is not refinancing. He is not resetting. He is watching the number shrink and doing nothing else. Nothing else is the whole point. It is 2026, 21 years after that Tuesday. Marcus and David are both 50 years old. From the outside, their lives look roughly similar. Marcus's remaining mortgage balance, approximately $14,000. He could write that check from his savings account this afternoon and own his home free and clear before dinner. His monthly housing cost will drop to property taxes and insurance, roughly $290 a month. That $1,140 that has been leaving his account every month for over 2 decades doesn't disappear. It redirects. The same Tuesday it stops going to the bank, Marcus sets up an automatic transfer into a low-cost index fund. No announcement, no celebration. David's remaining balance, approximately $258,000. The refinance that felt like a smart move in the fall of 2020 locked him into a 30-year loan that doesn't resolve until 2050. He is 50 years old. His mortgage will outlive his career. Now look at what moving actually cost. Two transaction events, the 2010 sale and the 2020 upgrade, consumed somewhere between $36,000 and $47,000 in direct fees. Agent commissions, closing costs, title insurance, transfer taxes, escrow fees. Not $1 of that went toward a house David still owns. It passed through his hands and disappeared into a title company, a brokerage, a county recorder's office. If that $36,000 to $47,000 had stayed, if it had gone into a diversified index fund starting in 2005, compounding at historical average annual returns over 20 years, it would be worth somewhere between $290,000 and $380,000 today. That is the invisible number. Not the square footage gain between the first house and the third. Not the school district ratings. Not the open floor plan. Not the historic rate. The number that actually defined the gap between these two lives is the one that never appeared on any listing sheet, any mortgage calculator, or any closing disclosure. It's the compounding cost of the decision to keep moving. None of this means staying put is always the right answer. It means understanding what moving actually costs. The full number, not just the monthly payment, before you decide. You already know which version of this story you're closer to, not because you've made bad decisions, because you've made normal ones. The upgrade that made sense, the rate that was too good to ignore, the neighborhood that finally felt right. Every one of those moments was completely reasonable. Every one of them had a cost that didn't show up until years later in a number warned you about. Here is what is true right now, today. The next decision you make about where you live will compound for longer than feels real in the moment you're making it. What financial independence actually looks like in a real life, not in a book, not in a number someone shows you online, is a person who is 50 years old, 12 months from owning their home outright, quietly redirecting $1,140 a month into wealth that no one around them can see. The richest people you know aren't the ones who found the best deal on the best house in the best neighborhood. They're the ones who stopped moving long enough to let the math do what it does. It runs, quietly, on Tuesdays. If this hit differently than you expected, save it. Because the next time someone tells you it's a good window, you'll want to run the full number first.